We need to talk about the trend of people putting horses in deliberately dangerous situations and then filming it for content and proceeding to get thousands of likes and views, because this is so common in the horse industry, and it is literally rewarding bad behavior towards horses and bad training. As an example, I saw this video on my Facebook newsfeed today, and it's a horse panicking and freaking out while it's tied to a trailer in a rope halter. You can literally see the trailer shaking around, and if the horse were to fall backwards, there's a chance that they could pull the whole trailer over, or they would break their neck because there's no breakaway point on the halter. A horse who responds like this to being saddled is not ready to be saddled. Also, I wanted to note that the girth placement on this horse could likely be what's causing the reaction because of where the buckle of the cinch is. These next few photos are from the Saddle Fitting US Instagram, and they show where the nerve bundles are on the horse. And you can see that there's an X down below, and that's where the nerve bundles run underneath the girth. And the buckle of that cinch is directly against those nerve bundles. This is another photo from Saddle Fitting US to show where the nerve bundle is. And as you can see, it's in the exact same placement as the cinch of the horse and where the buckle is directly against the skin. This is a video still, so it is indeed blurry, but you can see that the buckle of the cinch is falling in approximately the same place that those nerve bundles are. Another possibility for the horse's reaction is that it's not used to wearing a back cinch and that the back cinch is tight and it hasn't had the chance to adjust and get used to it, in which case that should have been introduced when the horse is not tied, especially hard tied, and it should have been introduced more slowly because this type of reaction is very severe and it makes it very clear that the horse is highly uncomfortable with this situation. The fact of the matter is that these types of reactions are avoidable with better training and horsemanship, and the fact that there's so many horse people that are trying to rebrand these types of reactions as them just having more difficult horses instead of them taking more risks and making more mistakes in training is one of the biggest problems in the industry, because it allows people who are being incompetent and inconsiderate and unempathetic in training to rebrand themselves as just having more difficult horses instead of them creating more problems with their horses. Now let's talk about some of the comments that are left on posts like this. First one, way too fresh, untie him and tie a front foot up, leading him around for a few minutes to get rid of the fresh. Bad horse training advice. Another one, temper tantrum much? Someone got mad or full of their oats today. Horses don't have temper tantrums. This is a horse who's responding fearfully to some type of discomfort, be it pain, fear, whatever. Some type of stressor. It's not a temper tantrum. Horse people love rebranding stress as temper tantrums as a means of avoiding how they contributed to causing that stress 99% of the time. There is also a bunch of comments of people commenting Hancock bred, Hancock. And I see this as another way of horse people evading accountability by attributing stress behaviors to a specific bloodline. People do this all the time with thoroughbreds too, with the Stormcat bloodline. And while those horses tend to be more sensitive and reactive, when they have this level of reactivity, it's a training issue, because you should be training the horse in front of you instead of expecting a one-size-fits-all approach and then blaming the horse when they respond with stress to you misinterpreting prior signals where they would show you that they're not okay with something. Last comment. I love coming to videos like this for all of the poor horse comments by people who don't have a freaking clue. The people who are commenting poor horse are actually the people who do have a freaking clue, because they can see the level of stress that this horse is under and they're uncomfortable because of that. If you can witness horses under this level of stress and in this type of predicament where they're at high risk of breaking their freaking neck because of the situation people have placed them in and not be bothered by it, you are the one who doesn't have a freaking clue, because one, you don't notice the level of risk involved to the horse and bodily damage. And two, if you do notice the risk and you're still not concerned, you lack empathy, and that is a problem. I'm sick and tired of people trying to frame it as if it is a lack of understanding or lack of having a clue to respond with empathy towards situations where horses are clearly very, very uncomfortable with the situation, because that is not a weakness. It's a good thing. More people need to have empathy for the horse and be considerate of the situations that they put horses in, instead of deliberately endangering horses and wanting the privilege of being able to do that without any criticism or concern from outside eyes. Here are some more comments on the video. As many horse experts are in this world, I am really surprised that there is any problem horses left, LOL, implying that people who are commenting on, hey, that's a problem, horses shouldn't be reacting that way if they're properly conditioned and trained to things, as if those people are clueless, of course. And then we have Glenn here that says, that horse ain't herding. He's mad. He can't have his own way. If you give it to him, you create a horse just like every other screaming brat in the cereal aisle at the grocery store. The number of people that can't see this is the whole problem with kids these days. Bet that Glenn thinks that hitting children is okay and necessary. I will literally bet $1 million. Horse people really need to stop anthropomorphizing horses to the point where if the horse is anything but blindly obedient to them, they're going, this horse is throwing a temper tantrum, because that's the easiest cop out to try to avoid admitting the fact that you just can't train and horses are not comfortable with you in their presence. Because come on, take some accountability. It's your job to train. If horses are constantly having temper tantrums around you and you just need to witness them having them until they give up, that is a you problem that you should look at. All the brave commenters should run in there and save it. Let me know when you're getting out of the hospital. You know, the people commenting on this that this person is referencing are talking about ways that they could have mitigated this accident by using a breakaway tie or not tying the horse in the first place. Barbara here is less problematic than the rest of them by saying got that out of its system. But the issue there is that there's not really anything to get out of the system other than a horse responding to stress, being unable to escape the stressor and being tied to a trailer, and then eventually stopping and going into a shutdown response. That's not a good thing. Then we have the classic, y'all are too much. Maybe he is just an ass and needs an attitude adjustment, or maybe he is just throwing a fit. Not all horses are in pain. Some are just buttholes. You know, I'm not necessarily saying this horse is in pain, but it's very clearly upset. And all of the people who claim that horses are just being assholes are literally just, again, evading accountability for how they create situations that they're not equipped to handle with emotional regulation. And attitude adjustment for a lot of these types of people is just a euphemism for beating the shit out of your horse or stressing your horse to a point where they continue responding this way until they shut down and get tired of doing that. Another one says, there is always one. I had a mare years ago that we'd be going down the road and I'd feel a jerk, so I'd look over in the rear view mirror and she'd be bucking in the trailer. I'd just keep going and she'd eventually stop. Let's not normalize trailering horses who are behaving dangerously in the trailer, because the fact that that happened for years and that she always did it and eventually stopped doesn't mean that that's not a precursor to a major accident in a lot of other cases. We need to, again, be more considerate of horse stress. I really don't think that's a big ask, but unfortunately in our current horse world climate, it really seems to be, because these types of videos get so many views. I'm glad he worked out that having a temper tantrum does not get you what you want. I don't think the horse worked out anything other than the fact that he's tied to a fucking trailer and cannot escape. So, yeah. That's quite the temper tantrum he's displaying. Would he be a Hancock bloodline by any chance? Not a temper tantrum, for God's sake, guys. Just take accountability for how you deliberately stress out horses instead of perpetually blaming the horse for creating situations where they respond this way. Like, can horse trainers please take accountability for the mistakes that they make instead of pretending that it's the horse having an issue? This type of phenomenon in the horse world is so incredible to me, because people will jump through all of the hoops to try to avoid looking at the fact they have a flight animal who is behaving like a flight animal when they feel in danger and trapped. And instead of accepting the fact that they've chosen to work with a flight animal, they'd like to make all of these other stupid excuses to blame the horse for the behavior that is a flight response. If we choose to work with horses, we seriously need to actually reflect on what we're doing and how we contribute to flight reactions. Regardless of what incited the flight response, it is on the trainer to mitigate those types of responses. And if you don't, and you have this type of big and dangerous response, it is on you to learn from that situation and do whatever you can to avoid it in the future, instead of laughing at it and acting like it's some unavoidable part of horse training that is solely the horse's fault. I have never had this happen to me, and I used to train in some pretty shitty ways, but the reason why I haven't had stuff like this happening to me is because I've noticed earlier signs of discomfort or anxiety towards the saddle, and I make sure to untie horses who are nervous of the saddle and to work with them and not put them in situations like this. And that is how you avoid these types of reactions. It's not just working with easier horses. It's not being a real trainer or just having horses that are perfect. It is setting yourself up for success and setting the horses up for success so that you're not creating situations like this in the first place. And I wish more people could take accountability for their behavior and recognize the fact that most of these types of situations are created by the trainer themselves. Because the people who truly get into these situations by pure accident are not the ones posting these types of videos and laughing at them and mocking them, because they recognize the fact that they made a mistake and they'll take accountability if they do choose to post the footage. They're going to acknowledge the fact that they made a mistake instead of laughing at it and blaming the horse. If you hold your horse to a higher standard of emotional regulation and learning capacity than you are willing to hold yourself to, there is something wrong. And so many horse trainers are guilty of that. I'm so sick and tired of watching these videos of shitty horse training go so viral all over the internet. So this is my encouragement to everyone. If you are going to comment and respond to these videos, even if it's to disagree, consider the fact that you could just screen record and repost the video on your own page. Do not interact with these videos. Let's not give these people more reward for their behavior. Let's shut that shit down and boost the content that is actually nice to see. If you want to remark on bad horse training and the state of the horse world as a learning experience, I think that's really valuable, but you can do so without giving the original poster the traction for that, and you can do it on your own page. So consider doing that instead of fighting in the comments, because it boosts their post and it's still giving them positive attention. That's making it reinforcing to post videos like that in the future. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let's not reward abusive horse training that puts horses in danger.